Welcome back to That Rugby podcast, hosted by the Rugby Booth. It's your boy Luke and Husey back again. Look,
G'day.
interesting week, mate. Honestly, I was watching your Waratahs, in a do-or-die battle for the playoffs, and we had flashbacks, and I tagged you in a post earlier in the week of a historic defeat, and I was like, "Oh, this could get dangerous." You came out and played a bit of a better second half, but likely the season is over for you, mate.
Yeah, it's tough to watch and tough to see, especially without two of our big three best players. Well, you said at the start of the season as well, and I think a few media outlets have said as well that Waratahs, it's not quite gelling together. I think they need a season together under Dan McKellar to really make a impact in the finals. Look, it's an improvement from last year, although it was hard not to improve on last year. But some other good signings as well. Look, it's hopeful for next year. Look, there's still a chance for this year. There's still a pathway there. But yeah, it's an unfortunate season. Losing Max Jorgensen for the better part of the season has been really tough, I think, for the Waratahs.
Yeah, there's a chance to make the playoffs still. There's also a chance to finish last. And so I did the maths on how that could calculate. So currently you guys are on 22, the Force are on 22, we're on 20, Islanders on 19. Now, you've got 2 away games, so we can write that off. It doesn't matter. It ain't going to matter. It's never going to matter. You guys don't win away from home this season. So you've got the Force and the Blues. Let's imagine you lose both of those games. This is the only way you end up finishing last if you lose both of those games. Force obviously beat you. They jump you. We'd need then the Drua to beat the Reds, which would be
in Queensland.
An away win in Queensland, and they've only ever won one away game. So it would be historic, but hey, weirder things have happened. And then the Highlanders would have to either beat the Crusaders or the Chiefs. Chiefs at home, Crusaders away. So there's a possibility that you could finish last again. And that's all I'm holding hope out for. There's 2 things I'm holding out hope. It's for you guys to finish last and the Blues to not make the finals.
Yes, look, the Blues, they suffered a loss this week to the Blues killer Ardie Savea, taking them down and putting them into 7th position, and Moana Pacifica leaping them for that 6th final spot. Now, look, if the Waratahs have to miss out for Moana Pacifica to get in, that's all right. That salves the wound somewhat, to see Moana Pacifica, because then that way both expansion teams will then have made a final series in what this will be the 4th year of these 2 teams. That's pretty good. That's not bad. Considering where Moana Pacifica started. Yeah, it's pretty good. Then we've seen that improvement year on year. I know people were questioning, like, oh, do these teams really belong here? Well, I think we're seeing the questions answered now. I think Moana Pacifica is a great concept of a team as well, because as we saw when they first started up, Christian Lealeafano going there and joining them. Now we've got Ardie Savea there as well. These players, as they're sort of getting on with their career, they want to pay homage to their heritage, and going to play for Moana Pacifica, I think is pretty sweet. Look, elsewhere around Super Rugby, we'll get to the 2 big games in a second, but the Drua put an absolute walloping on the Force, another home game for Fiji where they come out really strong.
The Force, and I know Cronin has come out and said it now, like, their schedule has been fucking ridiculous. Like, they have travelled every way all over the country. I know it's already hard out in Western Australia. It's going to be big travel commitments, but I think they've gone like New Zealand to back Perth to the other side of Australia, back to New Zealand, back to Perth, and then to Fiji to then come. They've got to go all the way back to play you guys.
And let's track their season so far. They started in Perth to Canberra, so that's a 5-hour flight back to Perth. All right. To New South Wales, so flip-flop, to New Zealand. So I presume they're going to go from New South Wales back to Perth to train, then to New Zealand, right? Then New Zealand back home to Perth, then from Perth to Queensland, then Queensland back to Perth. They had a week off then, thankfully. Then they had a game in Perth, and then a game in New Zealand, and then another game in New Zealand. So again, they got to, I wonder if they stayed in New Zealand over that week. Then back to Perth, then to Fiji, now to New South Wales this week, and then they're off in the final week. So they've just got their last game.
They're at home this week against you?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So Fiji
So
to Perth, sorry, I should say.
yeah.
Fiji to Perth.
Again, and I'm like, I know it's always going to be difficult, but I just, every time I looked at their schedule towards the back end, I was like, they've just come from like New Zealand going back to Perth and then they're going to Queensland. And I was like, there's just no chance that they can keep in the fight as they have been. So again, I imagine it's extremely hard to organise a Super Rugby competition. I don't want to make any judgment on it. The schedule must be one of the hardest things to come up with, to calculate, to do. But I just sat there and I went, this has been a disadvantage for the Force this season. Towards the back end of the season, we saw how much good fight they were able to put in at the start. You can tell by the end of the back end of the season, it's taken away from them with the travel and everything to there.
Yeah, 100%.
I also just want to mention as well, Moana Pacifica into the playoffs, just quickly. The Blues still stand a very good chance. And the reason I say that, the Blues have to lose to the Waratahs to not, and let's be honest, they're probably putting 5 points on you. Let's just assume that. I'm not the bearer of bad news. I think you can expect going into Auckland, it's going to be tough to play. Again, the Blues haven't been hot shit, so they may not, but let's just assume they do. That means Moana need to pick up 5 points between two games, and that's over against the Chiefs or the Hurricanes, both away from home. So I go,
a win and a bonus point loss.
A win and a bonus point loss, they've got to do. They have to do. And again, it's still a big ask, and this is what I'm saying. Like, as much as we're celebrating Moana Pacifica's win over the Blues, which we should, Blues have always held that they're a big country. I've always been of the idea Moana Pacifica have struggled because they haven't got an identity. They've now moved into North Harbour Stadium. They've got their cultural leader in Ardie Savea. He's giving them an identity, and as you said, it's been a massive success. I was one of those massive critics. I want them to make the finals at all costs, but it means that my Hurricanes need to win this week against the Reds, or else I'm not gonna bank on the Moana Pacifica win over the Hurricanes to knock us out.
Yeah,
because that ain't happening. I can't do that. I say at all costs. I draw the line there. So again, it's getting heated to that point. All I'm hoping for, and this is the problem now, as a New Zealand rugby supporter, am I hoping that Moana Pacifica beat the Chiefs? No, because that's what you're hoping for, because then the Brumbies, who are already top of the table, and I know we'll talk about their game, will go above the Chiefs and will hold all the cards in their hand. And I don't know what I want.
Look, I think as a New Zealand fan, you'd more want the Brumbies to be the top seed than the Chiefs or the Crusaders, because who are you more scared about going and visiting their home ground? You guys broke your curse this year against the Brumbies as well, I believe. In Canberra.
We can beat anyone bar the Crusaders, I think, in these finals. So I would totally take anyone bar. I think we can go to the Chiefs and beat the Chiefs. Again, we did it without Damien McKenzie and their team at home. But I agree. I see what you're saying. It fears. I also don't, as much as everyone else wants you lot to come back in Super Rugby to be competitive, I still want a New Zealand team winning. I'm not blind to that fact, other than the Crusaders and the Blues. So actually I only want 3 New Zealand teams to win it. I will take a Brumbies win over a Crusaders win. I will say it. I've said it. It might be blasphemy a little bit, but I'll say it.
No, that's fair enough. Rivalry is rivalry,
Exactly.
Look, then, speaking of the finals, we have our top 3 locked in. Just look. Oh no, Queensland could technically, if they got 2 5-point wins and the Chiefs and Crusaders pick up no points, Queensland could theoretically get into the top 3. More than likely, though, our top 3 is pretty well set, right? The Crusaders and the Chiefs only need to pick up 2 points across 2 games to lock themselves into top 3. So Brumbies, Chiefs, and Crusaders. Then from there on, and those are the only 3 teams that have actually got a secure final spot. And the Reds, Hurricanes, Moana Pacifica, Blues, Waratahs, Force, and even theoretically Fiji and Highlanders are all. Everyone's still theoretically in.
No, Fiji's out because they've got Fiji and
one
Force
game.
are out. They've only got one.
Fiji and Force, they've got one game. Yeah. So even the lowly Highlanders are still in. So yeah, Waratahs, Highlanders, Blues are all still in it. But the funny thing here is that the Reds stand a chance of being knocked out of the finals potentially, which would be absolutely nuts for a team that's currently sitting 4th in the ladder. But it just shows you how tight this Super Rugby season has been. And I think they'll be, they had a lot of injuries going into this Brumbies game. It was always going to be a tall order. I think they'll obviously be disappointed that they didn't get the win there. But the Brumbies are, again, showing why they're the class of Australian rugby at the moment. They just keep churning along. They had their own injury concerns. Noel Alessia suffering a scary head knock against the Force. Thankfully, it's just that, and it's not a Joseph Suaalii situation where he's having to get some minor surgery done. And so they were able to, he'll be able to bounce back by the time we get to finals. And they'll be thanking their lucky stars. They've got a bye week this week because it gives them a chance to get healthy. Like, that's got to be, second last week of the season, I reckon it's going to be the ideal time to have a bye week, because you still then can play in the final week and control your fate, control where you're going to be placed. But you get that little chance for a little bit of an extra bag right before finals, and you can maybe get some form going into finals. So, yeah, I think the Reds will be disappointed as well, but sort of understandable with their injuries. But the biggest game of the round, your Hurricanes defeating the Highlanders at the death. At the death. What was going through your mind while you're watching that game?
We're fucking blowing it. We're fucking blowing it. We blew about 4 tries. We played shit.
Yeah.
Look, this all credit to the Highlanders. They stuck in the fight. They played hard. But I thought we were blowing it, and I was sitting there like, throwing things around. I lost my keys for a little bit because they ended up under the table because of how far I threw them. And everyone has heavily judged the Hurricanes this season purely because we've taken Cam Roigard off at pivotal moments in games and haven't been able to close out games. In this game, we saw him play 80 minutes. Cam Roigard is our best player. Other than Ardie Savea, Cam Roigard, in my belief, is the best player in Super Rugby Pacific. All right? He carries so much of what we do. He opens up so much of what we do. And even when he plays a bad game, it's a good game for everyone else, if you know what I mean. So I go, we need to leave him on for the 80. We do. I understand carrying a halfback, but you're an injury cover from now on. That's what we need. We need Cam Roigard playing 80 minutes. He's as good as Dupont. I would even argue you could put him at fly half and he could do a job. And you could do the old French switch there. Yes, I'm happy we won. We needed to win. Again, we were 19-point favourites going into this game to win it at the death. We should have run all over them. We blew 3 or 4 tries. The Highlanders are going to fight. It happens. But we got very, very lucky. As we always say, though, good teams find ways to win. And that's what we needed to do. We just needed to win. If we had lost that, it would have made it very hard for us to get into the finals, I believe. But we needed to win. And that's going to be our season for going forward. And I look at it similar to something like the URC. You look at the Sharks over in the URC. Their points differentials like plus 30 and they finished third in the season. And like everyone else around them, you look at Leinster, 100 points. Good teams find ways to win. And at back end of the season, that's all we need, us Canes. If we beat the Reds, if we beat Moana Pacifica, we'll be in a good spot. Unfortunately, then it might put us on to 4th position and playing the Crusaders fucking away in the first week, which I do not back. But yeah, I was nervous. Again, when we got the job done, that's all we got to do. That's all we've got to do.
Yeah.
Just win those close games. Looking good for the finals now.
Yeah. I want to step back quickly to the Waratahs game and their loss. Now, I don't know if you have seen this or not. But, after the game, I think the day after the game it might have been, or it might have been the post-match press conference. I don't remember which one. Dan McKellar came out with a bit of a fiery speech about what he's observed now at the Waratahs over the course of his tenure there, coming towards the end of the season. And what he said was, I've been here a number of months now, and there are some people who are too comfortable. That needs to change. Now, this, there was some more. There was some more to the speech as well, and some more. Jake Gordon spoke to as well, and he said results speak for themselves. There have been systemic issues for a while now. It's just disappointing. We're a better team than that. So it sounds like all around everyone knows that there's something not quite right at the Waratahs, and we've seen it as well. Like the hot and cold season, the up and down results, and particularly the thing that's been most concerning to me as a fan has been when we've lost hard. Haven't even gotten bonus points out of losses, right? I want to draw your attention to 2 things, right? The team with the most bonus points and who are sitting above the Waratahs on the ladder is the Blues. They have 6 more points than the Waratahs, and they have 6 more bonus points than the Waratahs, right? That's the difference there. That's the difference between conceding when you're losing and staying in the fight, right? The 2 teams that have the next most amount of bonus points are the Brumbies and the Highlanders, first and last, respectively, on the ladder. Now, the Highlanders are only 3 points behind the Waratahs, despite having lost 2 more games. That is a huge difference right there. There's not most teams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams have got 4 bonus points. 2 teams have got 5 bonus points, right? So the average is 4 bonus points, really, when you think about it. The median number or the mode number of bonus points is 4. And the Waratahs aren't achieving that. And that has got to be considered. So their wins haven't been convincing wins for the most part, and their losses haven't been narrow losses, right? So that speaks to barely scraping by the skin of their teeth in their wins, and then getting absolutely blown out in losses, which is not a sustainable way to be competitive in a Super Rugby season. So this is something as a fan you like to hear from the coach coming out and saying that he's recognizing that there are issues and their system issues and they're the way people are going about their business, right? And that needs to change. It's the pre-game stuff. It's the work leading up to the game that isn't good enough, from whether it's players, stuff. He didn't specifically say players. He said people that are here. So it's players, staff. Who knows? It sounds like there's going to be a big red pen used this week by Coach Dan McKellar for the Warriors. I wouldn't be surprised to see a massively changed team and maybe some staff announcements as well. But hopefully this does send the message to the locker room as well as the staff that no one's safe here. There's plenty of talent coming in next year as well. And there's the door if you don't think you're up for it. So, McKellar is a good coach. He's had proven success before at the Brumbies, so he knows what he's talking about when he's saying these things. And that is, it's good that it's not just the same platitudes. It's good that it sounds like action's being taken.
Totally, yeah, couldn't agree more. And yeah, after the start of that game, again, the Crusaders just tore you apart, and I was just watching us. I was like, this is going to get ugly. You did a good fight back, but again, too much, too early. And I will say to the Crusaders, I think they've got 3 fucking identical players in Braden Enor, McNichol, and Dallas McLeod, or whatever it is. 3 tall white boys who just fucking run. Like, their legs get going, and you're just like, they're like fucking giraffes, and they're just taking steps, and they're just around you, and that happened all the time in that game. So yeah, Crusaders looking dangerous. Look, let's talk about the one-man wrecking ball that is Ardie Savea, though. His performance against Moana Pacifica went to a whole nother level.
Against the Blues.
Against the Blues. Went to a whole nother level, and has rightfully, with 2 weeks still left to go, won Super Rugby Player of the Year. So they were doing tallies with coaches in head office, players, teams voting, and he was clear on the leaderboard from kind of the 4th or 5th week in, and now with 2 weeks left has won that award. Look, I'm making an argument here. This is a generational thing. Like, I was trying to come up with like an example of what this could even be like for other teams to like understand, for other countries. I look at it like, you look at England, it's like someone going and joining a championship team and taking them to the premiership and then them making the finals. Or the URC, it's like someone playing for the Italian team or one of the lower Italian teams, the Braves, and taking them to the finals. It's just like, this is a team that's 4 years old. In those 4 years has lacked identity, lacked culture to a point. And I don't mean like culture in like Pacific Nation, but just a winning culture. And he's come in and done it all.
You know what it's like? The most comparable thing I can think of is Wrexham Football Club, and it wasn't a player that was ownership changing. So, and of course, as ownership, they have far more power to influence things because they've got money, they've got name recognition as well. Being Ryan Reynolds and Rob McAnally. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but they've got a lot more power about how things in the organization as a whole is done. Ardie's done it just by leading by example. And that's the cool thing, is he's just done it by being such a great player, 2, an inspirational leader, and 3, obviously has that undefinable trait that you have in superstar athletes that elevates the people around him. This is what we're talking about when we talk about Tom Brady in the NFL, Nathan Cleary in the NRL. Like, these players just make other players around them better. LeBron James, and it's unfortunate that a lot of the world won't ever know the name Ardie Savea because they're too obsessed with much worse sports and much worse competitions, So no, it's a historic run. I did see some discourse online that it's a pretty anticlimactic for it to be revealed with 2 weeks to go, and it sort of takes it away from Ardie, And I reckon what they should do is just what they do with the Dally M's, where you just stop announcing who's getting the points halfway through the season, and then announce at awards night. Make the awards night worth something. Make the people want to go to the to the awards nights and interested in seeing what's talked about there. I don't even know if the player of the season trophy or medal or whatever it is has got a name if it's named after a great player. So, there's a lot that Super Rugby could be doing better in those marketing and labeling areas that we've talked about to no end. To get back to the man of the hour, really the man of the whole season.
Sorry, just on that, I will just say this is the first time they've done this, and I'm glad they've taken that step. And it's like, cool, we've made that step. Now we can get it right. And again, we're gonna go through these growing pains where Super Rugby has always been the product is just easy to market, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like all growing up, we both watched Super Rugby. Like it was the product. It was just a game. They didn't need to do anything else because that was the best of the best in rugby down here. Now it's like, actually, we do need to market this, and now they're starting to grow and learn that this has to be something that we put behind. So, sorry, you go.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, back to the man of the hour. Look, and man of the season. Look, we've both, but especially you, have always been big Ardie Savea fans on this podcast. So I think you even said at the start of the season that he was your pick for player of the season. So, look, it's all coming up Ardie at the moment.
I'm interested to know if this will happen and to see if this takes into consideration. I know for World Rugby Player of the Year, it's only international rugby, and to me that's stupid. Like again, I get it. I totally understand it. Like you've got to put something around it. But so like there's a very good chance it's either going to go to a Wallaby or a British and Irish Lions player. Because let's be honest, unless you do something incredible, like say the All Blacks don't lose a game and Ardie Savea is as good as he's been from Moana, you're looking at that every single like series, every single tournament this year, and you're just going, does it compare to the British and Irish Lions series?
Yeah.
No. So say Suoliti goes out and Aussie win 3-0 and he's just incredible. You're going, it's a very hard to take it away, even if he plays average for the rest, those 3 games take it away. Say someone like, I need to pick a name. Let's go. Finn Smith goes and absolutely tears up for the British and Irish Lions 10, just absolutely kills them apart, or Jameson gives them apart. You're probably going to put that and they win 3-0. You're going to go, that's got some weight behind it. I just don't understand how you can't look at this and go, even though it shouldn't take into consideration, it should. You know what I mean? Like that is just for a season he's done. Like I looked at it, and when I do my top 100 ranking, I always look at club rugby as well. And I always think, what competition are you playing in? Like the Japanese league, as much as there is talent there now and there's good coaching, it's a lower league. Like in my opinion, it goes, and I'm not going to, this isn't in order, but we know top 14's won. URC, English Premiership, Super Rugby. Those are like the 4. Then you've got like Japanese League 1. So I'm like, if you're playing in those 4, you're in a good spot. European rugby gets its doubled up because it's got the Champions Cup. So like you look at DuPont last year winning the Champions Cup and the top 14 double. That's pretty fucking special. Even if he doesn't travel with France, it's pretty fucking special. So I always go, I look at that and I go, what Ardie Savea is doing right now is out of this world. Like it is so far out of like the expectations. I like not just the fact that they're winning games, but the way he's playing and the way he's doing it. You know, the fact that he was the guy at the turnover, the fact that he is setting up tries that just as a number 7 shouldn't be doing. So I just sit there and go like, again, he's making a very good argument with his club season to be one of the best players, if not best players, come end the season in my awards. I think if he carries this into international rugby, it'll be interesting. My big question now is he's playing so well at 7. What does Razor and the All Blacks do? Again, he's been our stall man at 8, but I go, Wallace Atiti's return from injury has been fantastic. I think he's been 8 than 6. You look at players like Duplessis Krifi having an outstanding season. What Razor does with the All Blacks back row is going to be hella interesting coming into the end of the season. So I'm going to be patiently waiting for that team to drop. Obviously, your Wallabies and British and Irish Lions squads will take the reins, but there is a French series we do have against probably an underwhelming French team where Razor's got to stake his claim as All Blacks coach and get us going in a direction for a World Cup. So a lot of interesting to happen there. Across the globe, though, there is some more rugby decisions being made that are interesting, and specifically in the United Kingdom and Ireland, talking about the British and Irish Lions. Look, two big things happened. One overnight last night. Welsh rugby is in a bit of disarray. Welsh Rugby Union has said they're going to only go to three professional teams, whereas Ospreys and Scarlets, I believe, have both signed off to say, we don't agree with that. So they're in a little bit of a battle there. And then the Irish Rugby Union has axed their sevens program, which, again, a couple of years ago was very successful, I think, finishing third or fourth in the series. And I just go, again, for a nation, Ireland, who's having an epic run in rugby world, you look at their World Cup run all the way to the Six Nations, their team at the moment, what Leinster's doing, and you go, this just doesn't seem right. Like, to me, what do you mean you're axing your seven? I understand it's an expense, and this is what World Rugby has to look into, how are rugby unions and boards meant to supply that, and is it financially viable option sevens, because it's such a big part of rugby world now, because it's in the Olympics, because it's got that aura to it. It just still needs to be there. I just sit there and I go, I couldn't. I mean, you look at it and you'd go, you'd never drop in that sevens program. Women, men's, like, they are the golden girls and golden boys that, especially when they're doing well, you know, if you're having a tough time in the 15s world, you look back at the sevens and you go, yeah. And we look at it, and we're going to talk about the Pacific Four series with your Wallaroos, who are just fucking Charlotte Caslick, who's just incredible.
Yeah. Well, just last thing I'll say before we move on to that with the sevens is that it's such a good pathway into rugby for fans and for players. And this is where we'll now go into the Pacific Four series. What I watched that game, the Wallaroos versus the Eagles, great game. And the Wallaroos, I think for them, they had at halftime, I think something like 35% possession, and just really having to hold off the US. But it's a couple of seven stars that really stole the show. Charlotte Caslick on the side of the Wallaroos, and Ilona Maher, the most followed rugby player in the world, on the side of the Eagles, right? And both of them were very, very good that game. But yeah, Charlotte Caslick, I mean, wow. Just making the switch from sevens to 15s and making it look easy, making it look like she's always played 15s. And, out in that wing, the turn of speed that she has, and just the awareness in the game to, put a couple of those little grubbers through was just amazing. It was so entertaining to watch as well.
Yeah, I'm so hugely supportive. Like, again, your Wallaroos have struggled for a long time, and where they have struggled, the Golden Girls and the Sevens have absolutely been fantastic. Again, probably a down year for the Sevens, down a couple of years with the Olympics and this year. But as we see, like, it flows, like, success breeds success. And just even having her in those circles, like a lot of those Wallaroos girls who haven't won on this stage before, to have someone who's a known winner, it's huge for them. And again, I want to see that competitive against New Zealand. Again, we played out a draw against Canada, and that sounds horrific. Like, you go, New Zealand drawing against Canada in rugby. But that is so good for the women's game to have competitive teams in Canada. The men's team's a joke at the moment. So whatever you can be doing to get the women's team at that point is absolutely fantastic. And again, the same with USA. That's a competitive game. I know they did you last time in the Pacific Four series, but we're going into a World Cup year. Like, the Wallaroos, that opportunity to play in World Cups, it's a growing sport again. Because you look at the NRLW, that outdoes what the Super Rugby Women's Comp, it definitely does. But the opportunities to play in a Rugby World Cup over in England is what's keeping these girls in rugby, and that's awesome. So again, I'm very hopeful that your Wallaroos will continue to improve, and I just think sevens as a whole needs to be somewhere as an opportunity with the Olympics. I can't believe that that's your decision of your Irish rugby. Last little bit for today. Red Bull might be getting into rugby, which is awesome. Like, again, Red Bull have Formula One team. They have lots of little opportunities in football teams across the board. But now looking into rugby, potentially, I think actually on the way to buying the Newcastle Falcons based in the English Premiership, which needed to be brought. They're struggling for money. Look, I'm all for this. I love the idea that rugby at the moment, a lot of boards are struggling. We saw New Zealand Rugby Union just announce that they had like a $90 million loss. which is understandable. They're doing a lot of things. They set up the NZR Plus subscription model. They were trying to get all this content built, which, again, marketing, we're going into a new world. I totally understand it. I get it. But rugby's not completely a profitable game. You look at the NPC, that's a very unprofitable game. And I go, we sometimes just need smart people who know business to take over some clubs and go, this is what we're willing to do, and this is what we're able to do, and this is how we'll grow the game. So, look, it can go one of two ways. You spoke about Wrexham, like, new ownership can bleed absolute positivity and absolute great buzzing and get everything going. It can also turn into a sour patch and absolutely go downhill. But very hopeful for the Newcastle Falcons to get up there. The north of England needs some rugby, especially Union. So I'm hopeful that they can get going there.
Yeah. I know we said that was the last thing, but very last thing now. Yeah, I saw this during the week. I don't know if you saw it, but New Zealand Rugby came out and said that they would be okay for New Zealand rugby players who are not bound by All Blacks duties to play in the Invitational Anzac 15 against the British and Irish Lions, which is really, really big. So a lot of these Super Rugby players who are top-level players but haven't been selected for All Blacks duties will be available for that Anzac 15. I'm really excited for that game. I think that is going to be a fucking amazing game.
Yeah, Les Kiss to coach as well. I don't know if you saw that got announced.
I did see that as well. Yeah.
And then there's the First Nations and Pacific game as well. I think I saw, I don't know, someone just got announced as coach. I've forgotten who it was. But yeah, so yeah, this is so great. This is exactly what British and Irish Lions tours should be doing. Like, again, just more games. I know the free games are the big ones, but the more and more you build that series, it's great for the fans of the British and Irish Lions team and just Australian rugby in general. The more games, the more people, the more eyes. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah, so it's Totai Kefu, former Tonga coach.
Yeah, which is, I think, is really good for them as well for identity, and he's been a successful coach in the past. So, look, that's this series again. We're getting to the end of the Super Rugby season, which is awesome, but that Lion series can't come around soon enough, I think. We all need a bit of a serious rugby on our stage. So very hopeful that the Wallabies with two teams in great form and the Reds and Brumbies with some star players coming back from injury, hoping to push for selection, will get a great series.
So I want to take a look quickly. I know we're pushing for time, but I want to look at the series and let's think about let's have a look at this series and realize like what a great time we're in for. So first game is against Argentina in Ireland. Like you're starting off against Argentina. It's like that's great for Argentina as well. Like getting a taste of that British and Irish Lions tour. Then they're against the Force, the Reds, the Waratahs, and the Brumbies. The Anzac 15 in Adelaide. Wallabies game 1. First Nations of Pacifica, Wallabies game 2, Wallabies game 3. That is, and look, this is for these players as well in the British Irish Lions tour. They're starting on June 21 and finishing on August 2nd. That is a big shift from those players. So by the time they get to the Wallabies,
tour though, how good's a tour? How good's a tour? Like, just knowing that there's 10 games and you just you're going to have those midweek specials with like Henry Pollock trying to run over people. It's just, it makes you dream.
I know it's going to be good. So so for the Southern Hemisphere part of the tournament, it's a Saturday, then a Wednesday, then a Saturday, then a Wednesday, then a Saturday, then a Saturday, then a Tuesday, then a Saturday, then a Saturday. Like, yeah, those ones against the Super Rugby teams, I think are going to be really good.
That makes it. Again, you see players like, who never expected to be playing against the British and Irish Lions getting an opportunity too. Is just
Nick Champion de Crespigny. He's probably not going to get picked for the Wallabies, but he'll be playing there for the Force against the British and Irish Lions.
Fantastic this season. Yeah. Again, those guys who deserve opportunities to stand out. Even, you have a good game there, you don't know, and you get a young bloke, maybe 20, 21-year-old who has a fantastic game that you haven't really heard of, comes off the bench, scores a try, does something special. It could be the next pathway there. And again, this is the way we build this game. Like, that is going to be such a buzz. Like the NRL, as much as they're in a great position, they're going to be flowing through their series. That's going to send a little bit of a shockwave when you just have hundreds of thousands of UK visitors and a sea of red just coming over cities to take over. It's just going to be something different that they haven't experienced for a very long time. So yeah, very excited for But we will be back next week where we should, after this week, really, we'll know the picture going clearly into the last week of Super Rugby, who can make it, who can't, where everyone's going to finish up before we get into finals time. For now, thank you for joining us. I've been Luke. That has been Husey. We'll see you later. Goodbye.
Peace.